So we're focusing on Unit 8 in U.S. history. This is the imperialism unit. So America has gone through settling the West, Unit 6. They have created huge populations in our urbanization process in the Northeast in Unit 7. And now we're looking outside the Americas. We're going to be imperialistic, building large empires as we try and match that of Europe and some of Asia. So first thing you can take a look at is some vocabulary that goes with this. Let you push pause and get these down. Okay, so we're dealing with 8.1, the reasons why we are going to flex our imperialistic muscles at the turn of the century. So why was America being imperialistic? So why are we imperialistic? Number one reason was industrialization. So as American industry grew, so did their need for more raw materials and natural resources to feed industry. Think of it as like a monster, like Little Shop of Horrors. Feed me more. So you've got this big glut of factories, and they need wood and rubber and oil and copper and tin. And so you've got to go find those things anywhere you can around the world. And that's what imperialism is. It's go find colonies, go take stuff that they have for you, like this evil little spider down here in the corner, take all their goods and resources, like England is doing in its huge empire where the sun never sets. But once you take the materials, you want to be able to sell stuff that you make. And so then you turn around and you sell them in these new markets. Best example of that is what's going on with China. Everybody for years had been trying to trade with China. This idea of having spheres of influence is a very European way of looking at China. We'll talk more about that in 8.3. But materials and markets were the biggest reason. Number two, there was a historian named Frederick Jackson Turner who wrote the Frontier Thesis. So Frederick Turner's Frontier Thesis, FTFT. And the Frontier Thesis basically said that Manifest Destiny chick down here, she ran into the West Coast, and she has nowhere else to go. So we filled the American frontier. So where are we going to take all this good American democracy and freedom? We need to expand. We need to go elsewhere. The safety valve that was the West is now filled. Manifest Destiny in America has now been fulfilled. And so we need to go outside. America always does best when they've got a frontier to conquer. Third reason, global competition. Okay, you remember what your mama told you. If your friends jumped off a bridge, does that mean you jump off a bridge? Well, Europe had jumped off the imperialism bridge, and we were pining to join them. You can see Uncle Sam sitting at the table here with all the countries of Europe, spiky helmet German guy, John Bull there with his round belly and his top hat, little tiny Japan in the background, bearded Russia. And so Uncle Sam wants to get in on the, hey, let's grab stuff too. Remember what had happened to Africa? The Belgian king referred to it as this magnificent African cake. Europe had divided Africa into its many different shares. And America kind of felt like we might be left out of that a little bit. So we wanted to keep up. At the same time as this idea is coming out, there was a man by the name of Alfred Thayer Mahan. And Mahan wrote a book called The Influence of Sea Power on History. And he basically told America that we needed to focus on three things. We need to go acquire islands and places around the oceans as naval bases. If sea power is going to be the most important type of power, then we need pit stops all around the world for our Navy to dock, get fresh water, more coal for their steamships. Second, if you're going to get all these ports and bases, you need a really big Navy. So we needed to build a modern Navy, get out of the wood ship era, get some big, huge battleships that can move really fast, etc. And Mahan's third idea was to build the canal. France had worked very hard trying to build a canal through Panama and failed epically. More on that in 8.2. But Mahan basically said for security reasons alone, not to mention the benefits with trade, but security benefits alone, you can see how much the shorter distance across Panama would cut the traversing of the naval forces of the United States. If the West Coast was threatened or the East Coast was threatened, we don't have time to go all the way around South America. We need to be able to do this quickly. And so global competition, we want to protect all of our interest, we want to gain more interest, etc. Last but not least is this idea of the moral imperative, so-called white man's burden, as read by Rudyard Kipling. You might Google the poem White Man's Burden by Rudyard Kipling, the same guy who wrote the Jungle Book. I mean, think of the premise of the Jungle Book. Mowgli in the forest is not a man. He's half animal, and he must leave the jungle in order to become a man. And so we have all these natives, these heathens, these people who are living in squalid conditions, who don't know how to read and write and don't wear proper clothes. And doggone it, it's just the American thing to do is to go give them civilization. Let's go civilize the heathens. You know, Uncle Sam and John Bull, notice they're carrying the heathens up to civilization. Notice Uncle Sam's got them in class and he's trying to teach them the right way to do things. Now, this is a very social Darwinistic view. The idea that some races are ahead of others because of this concept of survival of the fittest. You know, it doesn't just work in the Serengeti, it works with cultures. And if the American/European culture is the most dominant, well, the reasoning was they must be the fittest. And if it's the fittest culture, then it's only right and kind to force it upon everybody else. Think social Darwinism meets ethnocentrism. The idea that your ethnic group is the most important, the biggest, the best, etc. There was an American by the name of Josiah Strong who came up with the term WASP civilization, white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant civilization. The idea that only that culture should be expanded across the globe. There was a composer named John Philip Sousa who wrote a song called Stars and Stripes Forever. You hear it every 4th of July. Dun, 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 dun. You know, very jingoistic America, that we're the best, we're the brightest. If it's up to us, we'll take care of everybody. You know, the whole Spider-Man analogy. To whom much is given, much is required. And so that really was one of the big reasons for a lot of people. At the very least, it was an excuse for America to go be imperialistic. We're taking our good culture to everybody else. Now, looking backwards through the lens of history, we realize how hypocritical and dogmatic and arrogant this is, that, you know, only the white man's culture was a good enough culture. But that's where they were in the late 1800s.